All right, guys. Thank everybody for tuning in to the show tonight. We got a full jam-packed show. We're gonna get things going one way or another. Thank those for following the channel for a long time. Those, you know who you are. First and foremost, Jazzy Jeff, salute to you. Fire Jason Garrett. Well, we all have those thoughts, right? We all have those things in our mind of saying get rid of Jason Garrett. But neither here nor there. It just won't happen. It will not happen. It's one of those things where Jason Garrett got something on Jerry Jones that we just don't know. And it's just one of those things where you just got to fit back, fall back, enjoy the ride, because that's just how it goes. The other thing that's out here, this offseason, what went wrong, what went right as far as last season. Let me tell you something. The first thing that I'm going to come out with my mind is that this Ezekiel Elliott thing last year was just atrocious. It was horrible to a way where you just threw the whole rookie team out. Just throw the whole rookie team away, right? Sophomore team, you come in, you got all these type of things with Dak Prescott with the card situation, Ezekiel Elliott with the female situation. Those things it's like a heavy burden on the team. And we know that I'm not with team excuses. We saw what Philadelphia Eagles, they walking around now and they got a Super Bowl, and we sitting back saying, okay, remember the glory days. Remember the days when we was out there dominating. Remember the days when we was out there doing our things out there with the team, just winning. And I'm going to try to keep it PG-13. Those out there know what I mean. I would be crazy if Philadelphia goes on some type of 3 Super Bowls in 4 years type of run, or 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. That's almost blasphemous for me to even say that, for me to even think of something like that, right? That's crazy. But 9-7 is a far reach for us to go next year. I refuse, and I'm gonna tell you guys, I refuse for us to go 9-7. Even if I have to go find a clipboard, run out there and coach the team, we got to figure out somehow, some way to go at least win this division, get into the playoff, and go deep, baby. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. It's just one of those things that we need to get things going. Let me just read a few comments out there. The Malcolm Butler situation, the option. Malcolm Butler. What we seeing now, maybe we saw the rise. We've been waiting for this fall to happen for the New England Patriots. Now we finally seen a chink in their armor. We seeing the things that Bill Belichick is now having the issues with the front office, with the general manager, whoever, running the operation. We see that, and now we can see something that can be tangible to our eyes of what happened to the Cowboys. When you win, when there's success, there's a little thing that comes along with success. There's haters, and there's also turmoil and all that other stuff. If you don't know how to shake that off, you will see this type of production. You will see this type of distraction. You will see the media chasing after them. So I just can't wait for this thing to boil over altogether. But Malcolm Butler, let me tell you, if you was to put Malcolm Butler on this type of defense, and you got Chris Richards, right, coaching this guy up, maybe you will see an even more drastic from an 8th ranked overall defense kicking it down to a 5th or 4th overall defense. Because now you got a veteran guy who understands, who has a Super Bowl ring, understands what needs to be done in order to win in this league. And you have that on your team, that would be something remarkable. Now, I must say this. Will he come for cheap? Hell no. He's not going to be cheap. He's not one of those guys that you can say, hey, I'm going to pick up for cheap. But have we been burned in the past? I would say capital Y-E-S. We've been burned in the past with free agency. And I think that we are so snake bitten. We are so scared in a sense, whereas we just don't go that route, when it's time for us to pick up free agencies because of the contracts of Carr, Brandon Carr. His contract wasn't bad. It's just production was bad. If his production was kind of sort of, he got at least 2 or 3 interceptions a year, maybe you'll say, okay, it was a decent deal. He played every game that he needed to play. He was on the field. He never had no off the field issues. It's just the fact that, he's a press man cover corner. He's not a zone cover corner. So he had these type of issues with the type of philosophy of the defense that we had surrounded around him. And we saw what he did in Baltimore. But now all that's removed, right? We don't have that contract no more. What we need to do is, and of course, and I can go all the way back to the Roy Williams contract. Gave up 2 first-round picks. I'm talking about the wide receiver, Roy Williams, not the safety. Of course, what else free agency we messed up? The Joey Galloway. For those who out there who remember, those were all Jerry Jones decisions that messed up everything. If we would just been patient back in those days, we'd have a different type of outcome, a different type of approach to the game. But that's just real talk. This is me just splitting the flavor out there to you guys of what needed to happen and what happened that made us kind of so scary in a sense that we were just so money hungry at getting these players. And that's just what happened. Let me see. We don't need Butler. It's from Robert. Hey, to each his own. But I tell you one thing. What we really need is a veteran presence out there. If you think with your mind, with your heart, with your soul, and you guys already know I'm going to say this. If you think that this team from last year, the people that surrounded with our defense, the young defense that we have, if you really think that they can show up and show out in the playoff time with no experience, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, so salute. You're back in the building. Okay, great. All right, so I have my guy, Darreck here, the Dallas Prospect Show. Don't forget to check out the show. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff out here, what the Cowboys need to improve on, off-season talk too as well, and what the Eagles did to manage to get to the Super Bowl. We're going to take a peek behind the curtains, and see what all they did as far as free agency, off-season moves and things like that. Go ahead, Darreck, grab the show, man. It's your world.
Trying to jump back in, see exactly where I missed. I was trying to help James get all set up and up to speed. So I heard you were talking a little bit earlier about Cheeto, the number change, I'm guessing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that was something you probably already talked about. I think it was just an old number of his he had previously in high school, right?
Yeah, it was a number that he had in high school. We all know that when he got to the team, Nolan Carroll,
yep,
the drinking and driving guy, he had that number. So out of respect, he didn't demand that number.
Right. One of the many fine free agent signings we've had in recent years.
Message. I think the Eagles transplanted him over here so he can spoil our year, right?
Yeah.
That look followed him.
Man, I swear the Brandon Carr signing when Jerry paid $50 million for Brandon Carr, that just like completely broke us on any free agent signing outside of barely minimum contracts. Mm-hmm. I mean, what were our signings last year? Paella, Carroll, and DeMontre Moore.
Right, a team of guys.
None of them finished the season.
Right, none of them finished the season. It was like very, like you would say, hit and miss. It was all miss.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of, to me, the big things that differentiated the Cowboys from the Eagles this year in particular. And I understand what the Cowboys are trying to do. They're trying to build the draft. You want to develop and kind of hone your own players. You want to pay your own guys if you have to pay, as opposed to chasing a bigger name who's out there, but probably somewhere in his mid to late 20s and on his second contract or something like that. Because then you worry about having to either overpay or you're betting on a guy who's a little past his prime. Like if someone signed Dez, like if Dez was a free agent right now and someone signed him, they would not be getting the Dez that the reputation suggests. They would be getting a declined product, but that's not to say it's not still an effective product, but you get what I'm saying. It's not an ideal way to build a team most of the time, but if you have the correct talent evaluation, you can actually do something with that, and that's what we saw this year with the Eagles. A lot of free agent signings in the offseason, and they weren't afraid of trades either. I mean, they pick up guys like Jay Ajayi via trade. Who was another one of their trade guys? Was Alshon a trade? I think he was he was a signing. So yeah, they sign guys like Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith. They trade for guys like Jay Ajayi. I mean, that's what you do. You build the foundation of your team, and then you kind of build it out from there with a handful of those higher paid guys that can help kind of put you over the edge. Right now, Dallas getting away with not having to pay Dak hardly anything, not having to pay Zeke hardly anything. Now is your prime window for competing if you're Dallas. Look at Seattle for that model. Their team was at their best when Russell Wilson was still on a rookie deal. And then when he suddenly is like the highest paid guy on the team, you start to see kind of their era of dominance wither. I think for Dallas, they're in that window, but they're not treating it like they're in that window. And so they need to be open to spending. You're saving the money on Dak so you can spend elsewhere. So go spend elsewhere.
Yes, indeed. So one of the other pieces too as well, I saw when the Eagles made they moves, I was kind of jokingly laughing at their moves. We do know that they pick up Jurgen, I think Timmy Jurgen from the Ravens, a run plug stopper. That move was designed just to stop Ezekiel Elliott, just to stop the Cowboys' front offensive line, to just penetrate, put more pressure on Dak Prescott, to have him rolling out. And then I see somebody that's in the chat box mention also Ronald Darby. They picked that guy up just to, believe it or not, I'm tearing up my place over here. They picked him up just for Dez, believe it or not. A big physical guy. If we all look back at the Eagles game, Dez was eating the Eagles' lunch, especially last year and the year prior to that when he was healthy. Dez been a Eagles killer if you look at a whole bunch of other things like that, right? So they didn't really crafted their offseason just for the team that they got now, but they actually crafted it to defeat the team that's in the NFC East. And I kind of like the notion to say, okay, we're going to get somebody who can stop the run. We already know our edge is pretty good. We got these guys like the Grahams, and we also have this guy Barnett who can fly off on the edge. We got Chris Long, a veteran guy who knows how to play the system, who's understanding how to stay healthy throughout the season, right? Who's got to come from a good line of football knowledge. So even in a pinch, their team was so much ready compared to the Cowboys. Everybody on the Cowboys were pretty much saying that we were so close last year. Let's keep what we have on our own, but also let's bring in some fresh legs out there as far as the Xavier Woods and the Chidobe Awuzie and the Jordan Lewis. But all three of those guys, it took a minute. It took them week 5 or week 6 to this is what the defensive philosophy is all about. So it took them a minute to get to where they were at towards the end of the season. Yeah,
absolutely. And it took longer for Cheeto. He was dealing with hamstring injuries for over half the season. When he finally did come in, he actually did make some plays. And now, as a result, I think people are most eager and excited about him. But it's kind of funny because we have the smallest sample size of him out of any of the 3 premier corners that we think we have. Well, defensive backs, I should say, to reference your name, everyone's nicknaming them Law, So with Woods and, we didn't see much of a Awuzie, but what we saw, we really liked. But we also got Woods, who was impressive, and we got Jordan Lewis. So I don't know. I'm excited about the future of the secondary for the Cowboys. I think the Chris Richard signing could be a perfect signing for them, the kind of architect, so to speak, of the Legion of Boom. I think the Cowboys secondary, if they pick up maybe one more guy, or maybe if Anthony Brown has a solid bounce back year, they could very well become an elite secondary. And that's great because we already have a good, at least based on this year, we have a good, strong defensive line. Not quite elite, but a strong, defensive line. And then you pair with that a secondary, and you have the makings for an elite defense.
Yeah, so if you pair that up and you get somebody that can play the 1 or the 0 tech, or maybe even slide over to the 3 and just get some extra added push up the pocket up in the middle, then you have your Jalen Smiths of the world flying out to the ball. Then you have a prolonged life of Sean Lee. You have those things out there. And I don't know whether or not you do with the Hicks, because I don't know whether or not Hicks is going to be able to stay on the team if we can afford to keep him.